Welcome to the Inspired Women Podcast. I am your host, Megan Hall, psychology grad student, spouse, mom, and advocate for change. On this podcast, I provide a space for women to share their stories. Warning, sometimes we chat about taboo topics and drop some F-bombs. Thank you for tuning in with me today and enjoy the episode. Hey everyone, today I'm here with Birgitta Visser. She is a soul empowerment coach delivering messages from the many master teachers integral to helping elevate the consciousness of humanity and the planet. Ooh, being a Dutch mutt. What is a Dutch mutt?
I'm Dutch mix. So my mom is dark skinned. So she's Indian, Indonesian with a bit of French and Belgian. And my dad was German Dutch, although born in Holland.
Okay. I just call myself an American mutt sometimes because people are like, what is your ancestry? I'm like, I don't know. A bunch of white people. I am white. So there's no, maybe someplace if I did one of those 23andMe's, I'd be surprised. But chances are from what I know, it's Germany and England and
Irish.
Yeah, a lot of white people. That's what's. But anyway, it's good to know. It's the same thing I say, but I was like, maybe I'm wrong. But anyways, she sees herself as a bit of a bike messenger across the landscapes of time and space. Her often turbulent journey has been a steep learning curve, I feel you, often stumbling through the darkness of her trauma, yet never giving up. She has learned to embrace all aspects of herself, the good, the bad, and the ugly, taking responsibility for her life and her experiences, heal up and hug it out with herself. Birgitta hopes that people will awaken to what life is truly all about, unlocking their own potential and inspiring them to return to their authentic nature by healing their ingrained trauma and shaking their conditioning. And I've been working on that. Anyway. Yeah. She says life's too short pretending to be someone we are not, remaining in the space of the painted lines of who we believe ourselves to be, rather than recovering the brilliance of the light we are and always have been. By alchemising. I'm like, I've never said that word before. The held on trauma of our experiences, taking risks and soaring to new heights and actually living life rather than allowing ourselves to be lived. By the way, people think it's hilarious when I make my little comments. The bios. I can't help myself. I'm just like,
all right, it's okay.
Welcome to the podcast. Yeah. Alchemizing. I've said alchemy, but I've never said alchemizing in my life. So I was like, all right, look at that. Welcome to the podcast, Birgitta.
Oh, thank you for having me, Megan.
So when your publicist, I think it was, applied, she talked to, they talked about, I'm trying not to assume people's genders at this point. I'm just unless it says, what is it, he or she? He. Okay, see, I totally messed it up anyways. I should just stick with
they. It doesn't matter.
He talked about trauma and you sharing your journey of trauma and healing. So I'd like to start with you sharing a little bit. Oh, so we should probably have a trigger warning. We're going to talk about trauma. So I always forget. And I'm just like, then I don't want to have to go back and add it later on. Cause sometimes if I don't say it at the beginning, I have to go back and do the little snippet and add it at the beginning. And it's just so trauma. If anybody's not in the headspace, visit the 380 some episodes we have. But anyways, I would love for you to share a little bit about your trauma and, how, what happened to bring you to the place that you needed to heal yourself and all the things you talked about in your bio.
Wow. Where do I start?
I know. It's such a heavy thing where you're just like, I don't know. It's my entire life.
It kind of is. And, as I said in the bio, it's all about living our life and not allowing ourselves to be lived. It's so important. But I mean, trauma is part of the human experience.
Mhm.
We grow through our traumas, our circumstances, our experiences. And I will always say this, we can either choose to remain or decide to remain chained to our victimhood, or take that responsibility, that accountability to, look at our lives and, improve ourselves.
Mhm.
But it took me a very, very long time, because I was, when I popped out of the womb in 1974, I'm a
Oh my
70
God, I would never have guessed 1974. I wouldn't
Oh
have.
yeah, yes, I'm getting to
But then again,
Sarah nearly, right? So I'm nearly
right.
50.
But then again, I'm like 1986, and people are just like, you don't look that. I'm like, I swear I am that old. It's like, they're like, I would have guessed like early 30s. No, I am going to be 37 this year. I'm slowly encroaching on the 40s. So yes, but you definitely don't look that. I would have gave you like maybe a couple years older than me. So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you. That's why you like the 1990s music and I like the 1980s music.
Yes, I do like some 1980s music. I was brought up on classic rock. And so, I do enjoy that very much. And like some 1980s country. I can deal with, okay, right now I don't like country. I'm just going to be honest because it's too poppy. But like in the 80s and 90s, it was like, I don't know. That's the kind of country I like. I just nowadays, I don't know. I don't know if you listen to country at all, but
I definitely do.
Do you like the current country?
I do. There is Luke Bryant. What's the other guy's name? Come on. Oh, I can't even remember.
They're more country though. They're more like older country. Like they're more country. We're like, yeah, some of the newer ones are like really poppy, and I'm like, no. Anyways, yes. So you popped out of the womb.
Yes, I popped out of the womb, and it was I moved around. I've moved around more times than my age. So I'm a bit of a nomad, and I grew up in Singapore and Malaysia with my parents and my sister. And that's where I was abused by a friend of the family. And these
always is a friend or a family member, I swear.
And growing up in the 1980s was very different to what life is like now. So it's not like something I spoke of. And at the time, we were living with this friend because we had to move because my parents had lost the place where we were living. We had to move. And so we stayed at a friend's place for a while. And that, it just, I didn't understand it. And that wasn't the only thing that happened. Even at school, the teacher, my sister and I, after school, we had Bahasa Malay tuition. And the teacher would just stroke his hand all the way up my skirt when he was checking the exercises. In those days, you went up to the desk of the teacher and, they would check your exercises. I don't know how it's done today. Probably different because
it's different. But I dealt with that too, like where you had to bring it up. So yes, I feel you. But my kids are in school and they don't have to do any of that.
No. And my sister noticed that. And so she told our parents. My parents went to the head teacher, and I had to write down exactly what happened. And I felt horrified. I mean, as a 10-year-old, you don't know. You just don't know. And then what happened was the teacher was fired, and I felt so guilty. So it was two things kind of happening at the same time. And from there, my dad, we went back to Holland. I never spoke of the fact that a friend of the family abused me. Never. I didn't until I was 19 years old.
Wow.
And so I kept that in. But what happened was, when you carry that trauma, you create more trauma because you're not healing that. You're not healing the hurt, and you just, you keep it inside. And so when I was 13, we returned to Holland, as my dad was totally bankrupt, and so we had to start again. But he passed away in July of 1988, because he had coronary heart disease, and he literally just fell off his bike when he was cycling in Holland, and he took a last breath, and that was it. But so that was hard for me, but I was also bullied at school because I was super, super skinny. And honestly, Megan, I was very good at throwing away my food. Yeah, my mom would make my sandwiches, or, I would make my sandwiches in the morning. And then at school, it went into the trash. Except, at home in the evening, I would eat at the dinner table. So, but I was always very skinny. I had unlike my sister, and I was bullied because of it. I had knobbly giraffe legs. After PE sessions in the changing rooms, I didn't want the girls to see me.
Right.
It was terrible. I didn't want to take a shower. Hell no. So I never did. And, I looked at them and I was thinking, oh my God, they're so perfect. And look at me, I got nothing. There's nothing on me.
Yeah.
I would make sure that I was always the first one in the changing room and kind of be the last one out. That's how bad it was. And also when I had to go to a classroom, and I always say to people, I was probably wired the wrong way, but I had so much fear in me, Simple. I mean, teenagers, and especially the boys. And if my classroom was how do I put this? If my classroom was past and I had to walk past the boy, I would not take that route. I would take a whole other route to get to the classroom. I just didn't dare to pass him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't only that. When I went to Belgium, it was like a camping trip for school. There was one of the kids, and he pulled me aside. One of the popular kids pulled me aside, and he put my arm up, and he shouted, "Look how skinny she is!" in front of everyone. And that just really also dented my confidence. So I became really insecure, and I wasn't I could say I wasn't the brightest bulb in the classroom, I think that was because of my insecurities, and I just didn't enjoy school. And then my mother put me on a modeling course, to try and quick up my confidence, because I was really walking around like Quasimodo, like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, because I wanted to be invisible. And she put me on this course, and it didn't help at all, because I wasn't healing. I wasn't dealing with my issues at all. And then I was picked up by a hairdresser, and I had pretty hair, and he chopped it off into a piece.
Oh no.
Oh goodness. Oh my goodness. No, it was horrible, because I have that kind of wavy hair. So it just, when I got up in the morning, it was just everywhere.
That would be me if I had a really short hair at one point in time, but we had to cut it a certain way because otherwise it was just like everywhere.
I felt terrible. But even in the modeling industry, I was assaulted. And this happened in New York by a hairdresser who fingered me. And, people can say, well, you should have kicked him in the nuts. But when you're in such a situation, you do not know how to react, because it was just like from 1 second to the next. I didn't even ask for it. And so I kept that bottled up inside as well. And one of the things, I rolled into toxic relationships because I just didn't heal. And that's why they were very dysfunctional. But I look back on all of them, and there weren't many. And I'm thankful for all the experiences they cast my way, because I wouldn't be who I am today if it weren't for everything that I've been through. And when I say dysfunctional, it was mentally abusive. One of them got into bed with the Dutch Crips. because he was like a part-time crack addict.
There's a Crips there too?
Yeah, in Holland, the guy is on trial. The biggest, it's the biggest case that the prosecution has ever seen in Holland because the guy, Delano, you call it like murder for hire. So he was a broker for murder for hire.
Wow.
So they had to garner evidence for years and years. And so they did that. But I mean, my ex is doing very well now, actually. He's fine.
That's good.
Many of his demons. But this is a long time ago. This was back in 2009. And that actually was the start of my healing journey. And so that's how I rolled into all these holistic modalities of Reiki. Because I went to see a counselor, and the counselor said, "Oh, you know what, Brigitte, you're strong enough. You'll be fine." What the hell am I going to do with that?
Oh, my.
Yes, I do remember it. I'm sitting there and telling her everything. And because, I also had my life threatened by this guy, by the leader of the Crips. And I'd already left the country. My mother took me out of Holland, in the space of like 3 days, packed everything up, boom, and back to the UK. And I tried to, very lame attempt on my own life. I took a whole box of ibuprofens. That just, all it did, Megan, was it got rid of my headache and I slept like 12 hours. That was it. That was it. But that's one of the reasons that I went to counseling, because I just couldn't go on anymore the way that I had. And that didn't work for me. So I had to think, and I just had to see how, who could help me heal. It wasn't like I came here with a cheat sheet, what? You call this person or do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to figure that out. And so I studied Reiki. I actually became a Reiki master after many years. I studied EFT, which is the emotional freedom technique, which is really so powerful.
Wow.
You tap the emotions out of your system so that you can talk about whatever you went through without the flare up of these emotions.
Oh, okay. See, I did EMDR. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's not, you don't tap, but like the lights and stuff and the vibrations are supposed to do something similar where like you think about these things, but the emotion goes away, right? Like I can think about things that happened to me younger. I was assaulted as well when I was a kid and stuff like that. And I was in an abusive relationship and all these different things that I can think of them now and not have a total meltdown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's amazing. That's amazing as well. And people always think that healing has to be difficult, but it's not difficult. You just have to do some soul searching. And it doesn't matter how you choose to heal. That's entirely up to you. It's whatever works for you.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I also studied aromatherapy, aroma touch, holistic nutrition. I became a meditation teacher. I did meditative art workshop. So I gave meditation, and then I told people that after the meditation to just paint. And I had some people say, "But I can't paint." I said, just be relaxed, because you're already relaxed, and use the colors that speak to you. And the paintings they painted were amazing. Some were really incredible. And so I would explain to them what it meant. Because, you've got the colors and the textures and everything. So I enjoyed doing that. I actually did that in Florida, and I gave quite a few workshops.
Wow. You really did move around to different places.
I have moved around. I grew up, as I said, in Singapore, Malaysia, and in Holland. I lived in Istanbul. It's where I learned to bartend, actually.
Oh, I used to be a bartender too.
So I tried the modeling there. But, I hardly worked in the modeling industry because I didn't have such a thick skin. And there were many that slept around, and it just wasn't me. Absolutely not. So I've seen it, when I used to go to castings, they would flip through my portfolio. Now everything is done online. And what,
Yeah.
they take my comp card and then it was like, next. I honestly, I don't know how people can live of it, but I mean, even agencies took like a year to pay me. And that's ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, one of the agencies said I owed her money. This was Monique Models in London. And I, it wasn't much, but I didn't ask her to make a whole load of comp cards for me. And she refused to return my original portfolio. And I think it landed in the trash. It's just unbelievable.
People.
Yes,
People.
I know. I know. But, and I also saw many of them doing drugs. Yes, I had my stint with drugs, but that wasn't in the modeling industry. That was when my stepdad crossed over in 2000, and he had cancer. And my mom, I was there for my mom, but I had nobody. And so you could say I landed in with the wrong crowd, but it really wasn't the wrong crowd. It was just me that took ecstasy and cocaine, and I suffered memory loss, and I had sex on E, and it was horrific because I wasn't even there. I wasn't even I hardly. I mean, I was there, but I wasn't there.
Yeah.
That's how far gone I was, and I felt horrific after that. And honestly, I threw away my clothes. I washed them, threw them to charity because I felt dirty. That's how bad. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that wasn't yeah.
I can relate. I mean, I don't want to interrupt, but I can relate not to the drugs, but to like I drank a lot when I was younger to like deal with it. And I can relate to like the, trauma as a child and trauma as a young adult and, feeling like like you said, you kept attracting, like, right. You just, and I did too, because like, you're hurt and you just want to be loved and you just want to feel something, but like, because you're hurt, you keep attracting the wrong people. And like, it wasn't until I met my spouse, which don't ask me how I attracted him. I don't know. We were at a wedding and he's like the nicest human being in the world. And I just like, if it wasn't for him, like being in that relationship with somebody who was really loving and supportive, I would have just stayed on that track of like, and I probably would have never got my mental health diagnosis with bipolar disorder. I probably would never healed a lot of things. I mean, right now, the only thing that I'm struggling to heal is my relationship with my mom. I don't talk to her. And every time she tries to contact me, so I blocked her on everything, but you can't block people from sending you mail. And she will occasionally send me mail. And if I see it, it just triggers me. Like I'll have night terrors. I will like, it's just a mess. So that's the only thing. But a lot of it I have, and I can think about these things. And I've actually been able to forgive these people and try to understand where they're coming from. Like my abusive ex, he has mental health problems. He went through trauma as a child. Like he was doing drugs and drinking and all these things where I can have like this compassion for him to know he must have been hurting really bad to do that. Right. So I can totally relate to what you're talking about.
And you're right. We attract these people because that's exactly the energy that we vibe out. It's this chemical formulation of energy, and that's exactly what we reel back in. And yeah, that's, and I look back and, even my exes were, like I said, they were all dysfunctional. They all had their problems, but they've all sorted themselves out. Mm-hmm. But what we don't realize is often that when we stay in a relationship, we stump our own growth, but we also stump the other person's growth, because what we do, we try to fix them. We love fixer-uppers. These lovely refurbishment projects, but you can't help them. They need to help themselves. You've got to help yourself. And because I didn't help myself, I projected that onto the other person, trying to mold them, shape them, and it just wasn't working, you know? And I retreated even more and more. I got frustrated. But the only thing that kept me going was, hallelujah, I kept starving myself. And I just kept working like a maniac. And that's what kept me going, because I was running away from my emotions, and I was tucking them away. But eventually, you can't outrun them, because it will just hit you like a brick wall.
But it's hard. It's hard to process those emotions because it's just like, I just want to hide from them because that's painful. But then like once you've gotten through the healing, you're like, well, it may have been painful in the process, but I feel so much better now.
That's really true because you start to take responsibility, right? You take that accountability for your life and think, I can't go on like this anymore because everything just kind of falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that I'm not going through crap right now.
You can say Shay, it's okay. This is explicit. It's okay. I saw you go and then stop and say crap. And I'm like, you can say all of the words. That's why it's explicit.
Exactly.
I have a potty mouth. Sometimes I drop the F-bomb on here. I don't, I'm like, I can't help it. So just go for it.
We go through shit. But even now I'm going through something that really it's hard because the world is changing so much.
Mm-hmm.
We live in these beautiful transformational times, but everything's going to okay.
Yes.
Everything's
going right to shit. Yes, it is.
Literally. And it's got to fall apart. It has to fall apart because honestly, our soul was not designed to live this way. I've been working, as I said earlier to you, about 70 hours a week. It's healed me physically and mentally. And it's only because many companies, corporations, they've cut down on people and they're trying to, oh, great, you're working from home. I'm sorry. Sometimes I start at 4 a.m. and I finish late at night. That's not right. That's not right. But companies have cut down. And so a lot of it falls on, you do like dual roles. And it doesn't even, you get paid more, but is it even worth it? No, it's not worth it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes this is what happens. It makes you reevaluate life. Everything that you go through that doesn't sit well with yourself, or you're not sitting peachy in your own skin, you reevaluate and think, what is it that I really want out of life, rather than sitting and mulling around in your crap and saying, oh, my life is so shit. Oh God, and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Nothing's going to happen if you keep moaning and bitching about your life.
Yeah.
Right. You need to do something. You need to get off that couch and do something. Your life does not get better by magic. Honestly, it gets better when you start doing the work.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I always say with life, we go through things and then it's like this game of Mario Brothers or Donkey Kong. I always compare it to that, and in order to level up, you play this one level, God knows how many times, right? And every time
oh my God, I know.
Oh my God. And your thumbs are becoming glue on that joystick. And you have to keep trying. And so once you finish that level and you've learned the lesson within that experience, it's like, yes, okay, I'm leveling up.
Yeah.
And that's just the way life is. And I always call it the cosmic game of evolution. If you see it like a board game of life, right? And you roll the dice and you just embrace all your experiences rather than kicking them to the curb and thinking, okay, I'm going to deal with it later. Oh, because at the end of the day, you're going to lug it all with you.
It's still there.
It's still there. Yeah. So my healing didn't go overnight. It's been a long, long journey, and I'm still not done. I'm a flawed person.
I don't think we're ever done. Yeah.
No, we're never.
Like if you stay stuck in that one place, the world just goes on ahead of you. It just passes you by. And so you got to heal, but then you're going to go through some stuff. And so then you're going to have to heal. It's just being human. We have to deal with other humans who are also flawed and do crazy things where you're just like, why are you doing this right now? and then you have to heal and you move on. And like, our lives aren't perfect. They're messy and they're, chaotic. And like, I had like a really long friendship end like last year, and it was heartbreaking. And it took me a long time to process that, like a year to process that and like feel better. Right. And that was hard. And it's not going to be the last time. Like, we're human.
We are. And everything that we go through should expand our consciousness and that we understand the experiences. So the next time it happens, we're kind of like, oh, I've been through that. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. And then we move on. But we don't attract that same energy because we've changed the frequency of our energy. So we attract different things. And that's why I say it's always very important to learn to love yourself again. Because how many people, my dad always used to say this, it's like in front of the mirror and say, I love you to yourself.
That's hard.
How many people can do that?
Yeah, it's difficult.
I mean, I look at myself and think, oh, but yeah, I can't say it. No, I can't say it. There are days where I'm like, really like, oh. And so the other thing that really, really helps me is meditation. And I like to just listen to, which is easy. I like to listen to David G on YouTube.
Oh, I've not heard of that. How do you pronounce? Or not pronounce, spell.
Spell. So David.
Okay.
And then the next word is J-I.
Okay. I'll have to link that up in the show notes for people.
Yeah. And so you listen to that for like 20. He's got so many: overcoming fear, anxiety, how to be successful. And they're like 20-minute meditations, and you just follow them and you do the breathing exercises, because we breathe very shallow, right? It's mostly from here to up here.
Yeah. No diaphragm.
No, yeah. And it's really, you need to breathe all the way down to say your root chakra or below your belly button, and then breathe all the way up. And I always say to people, start with 4 counts. So you breathe in 4 counts, hold it for 4, breathe out 4, and hold it for 4. And once you get that, then do the 8 counts. And it's really, really powerful and it's really simple, but it just rebalances you, and it really helps calm you down. So people say, yeah, but what if I've got so many thoughts running through my mind? Well, all you need to do, that doesn't matter. All you need to do is become aware of it and go back to the breath.
Yes. People think when you meditate, you just got to clear your mind. That's not going to happen. Nobody can keep their mind clear for that long. Just you see the thought, you recognize the thought, you acknowledge it, and then you go back.
Yes, you go back to the breath. You go back to exactly that. And it's very, very simple. I do that. I think that's what's kept me going, but it's not been healthy for me to keep going like this. But sometimes we get put into situations where, just like I said, it's about reevaluating your life. Is this really what you want? Or do you want something else out of life? Is it about living your life or allowing yourself to be lived? Because people always say, and I know this, especially in the times we live in, Megan, prices have shot up. The cost of living here in the UK has tripled and quadrupled.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
I've been fortunate. My landlord, because we rent, even though the prices shot up here, he just kind of, I think it's partially because he's not motivated to do the fixes to the place. He would have to rent it more. But I'm okay with that because I don't have my rent increased. But yeah, it's just like, they have, like, right? But I think there's going to be a turn. I don't know about in the UK, but in the United States, because they've shot up like the interest rates. And so now people aren't going to be able to just go and buy all these places and set all this high rent. Now you're going to have to be competitive. Yeah.
Yeah, this is very true. Even here in the UK, in a building that I live in, when 4 or 5 people view a property, guess what they do? Now it's the highest bidder. And it's like, you can't do this, criminal.
Right.
But that's just the lay of the land. People just do whatever they want. but it's just, yeah, the UK is extremely expensive now, and the wages, like I said, I mean, I make okay, I do okay, but a lot of it, I think three-quarters goes to bills now, and
Wow.
that's really insane.
That, yeah. No, I feel you. I would say, yeah, probably a good like half to, yeah, at least half, if not three-quarters, goes to like my utility bill alone is like
Yeah.
$300 a month.
Oh,
Like it's insane, like American dollars, but like
yeah.
it's disgusting. I mean, I live in one of the most expensive states. Like it's in the top 10 of expensive states, but it's $300. I don't even use that. Half of that is the utility company charging me for delivery. And I put that in quotes. I'm like, there's no way it cost you $150 to deliver me my electricity.
No, but they can. This is the thing. They can.
Yeah.
And but it's it's put a lot of pressure on people. And it's like how I understand it. So it's put a lot of pressure on the mental health and the mental well-being of people
Mhm.
right now. Like how are they going to make ends meet?
Yeah.
And not only that, but there's a lot of peer pressure, there is a social pressure and work pressure, incredible work pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So all I can say to people is like, you just got to breathe through it. You just got to go with the flow and just reevaluate your life and see what it is that you want out of life, because you are free to choose. And I understand that I'm very much free to choose, you
Yeah.
know. So I know for me, this is only going to be a couple more months of this work, because I put a plan in action, and I will always follow through. So I'm not one to sit, even though it's tough, I'm not one to sit, mauling around in my own crap, so to speak. I just push forward. And that is the thing, because, before you know it, life is over.
Yeah.
We could be here today and gone tomorrow. And then it's like, well, I wish I'd done that or done that.
Yeah. I've been having some
Precious.
health problems recently, and I went to and of course you think like, don't Google things because you'll think you're dying. And I was just like, I keep thinking like, I don't want to die. I have so much to do.
Yeah,
And
you
then
do.
I get my blood work back, and I was just like, oh, these are things that are like they're gonna be, it's gonna be fine. I'm not dying. Okay. I mean, I do have to get like some a CAT scan done, not on my abdomen, not my brain.
Okay.
Yeah, not my brain. But it's like things that I'm like, this is probably a problem that's like really simple to like, but like, in that moment, you're like, I'm dying. And I'm like Googling, and it's like, you're going to die. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to die. I have so much to do. But yeah, life is short. Like you want to do the things, right? You want to, and you are going to go through moments in time where you have to go through the suck to get on the other side. Like right now, I just recently applied to PhD programs, and I did 4 interviews, and I have not gotten acceptance yet. And I've gotten a rejection out of those 4. I got a rejection from everybody else too. But like, and I haven't heard back from one. I don't know what's going on. And that's the one I'm like really interested in. And I got one where it's like, you're number 2. So if somebody else rejects their offer, you're going to get one. I'm like, but no, what if they don't? Right. And then so it's like this mess. And I'm like, this sucks. It like pushed me into a depressive episode because I'm bipolar. And I was like, but this is just a moment in time. Like this will pass. And I have a backup plan because that's how my brain works. If I don't get in this time, I'll try again. But
Yeah.
like, like it's a moment in time. If I just sat and like, this is going to suck forever, I would never get past it.
Absolutely. And that's victimhood, right? And many people remain there in that victimhood, and then they wonder why their life's been shot to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's hard when you're in a situation, but you have to snap out of it. That's the only way you're going to move forward. And it's just so important, especially in these times where everything's just being highlighted where people's emotions have run rampant and everything is just bubbling to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got it. My dad always used to say, like, and my mama says it these days too, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how dark, how long and how dark that tunnel is.
Eventually, you're going to get on the other side.
Yes, eventually you will.
Yeah, no, we feel that. I mean, we feel that our family is going to go through a couple of transitions with my spouse's job. Obviously, has got to change if we're moving. It is going to change even if we don't move. But like all these transitions our family is going through, and right now it's a little tough, and we're having like these hard, like these difficult moments where like but you got to focus on the next thing that's coming, right?
Absolutely.
So we have countdowns because my spouse is going to retire from his current job and get a new flexible job, and I'm going to tag team him and be like, you're the predominant parent now. You're the primary parent. You get to take over. Have fun. And tag you're in, right? But we're like focusing on, instead of like being in this moment where this sucks so bad, we're like, but pretty soon that part of the suck is going to be done, right? And so it is like knowing that eventually you're going to get through it.
Yeah, and not only that, there's one thing that I haven't touched on, that's fear. And fear is what holds so many people back, right? It's like the beta blocker. And fear, I mean, we know it means false evidence appearing real, but that's what blocks our mind. Our fear does that. When we let go of that fear and when we heal from our traumas, that's like, oh, but why was I so afraid of that? But I can do this. I can do this with my life, or I can move to another country. Why not?
Right.
Why not? You can do anything you set your mind to. Well, except, fly like Icarus in the sun. But, not like that.
Anything that like physically humans can do.
Yes. Precisely that. But these are things that I had to learn because, I walked around with so much hurt, with so much shame, with so much fear in me. I was always so afraid of hurting other people. At the end of the day, this moron here, this idiot, got hurt herself because I was the one that was always getting hurt because I didn't dare to speak my mind because I was always being the doormat for other people, and they wiped their feet repeatedly on me, and I just took it, and that's not right, Yeah. So I had to learn to step up to stand up for myself and learn to speak my truth. Because honestly, I was a very, very timid mouse, and I've regained a lot of my confidence now, even in the workplace. I will say it like it is. Not that everyone always appreciates it. I don't really care. I mean, I accept people the way that they are. And I understand that people vibrate at a different level of consciousness, a different level of awareness, but I've learned to forgive everyone in my life. I honestly have. And I can say that I love them because actually I do. And our nature is essentially love. That's what we are. It's just we've been so conditioned in this earthly jungle, right? I call it the insane asylum. Earth is the insane asylum. And we've been drip fed and to live in this conditioned matrix, so to speak, the societal grid of existence. And once people wake up and they're like, oh my God, this is not really living, It's time for me to wake up and hop the fence and start truly living my life.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. I know. I feel that so much in my soul. It's been, trust me, it's been a long process, as you can relate, it has definitely been a long process, but people need to know that it's possible, right? That's the whole point of you coming on to share your story, is to say like, look, it's possible to heal from these things.
Yes, it is. And people say, but yeah, but I'm sorry, you were abused as a kid or you were assaulted as a kid. How can you forgive that person? How can you not when, your essence is love and you don't understand that anymore because we live so much in separation. And actually, it's like we don't even recognize one another anymore. We think we're all strangers in the street. And it doesn't cost anything to smile or to say hello or to be friendly to other
Mm-hmm.
people, and have a little bit of compassion and empathy. It doesn't cost anything. When I go to, for instance, the supermarket, and one of the cashiers was at the self checkout, I will always ask them if they're okay, because it
Yeah.
doesn't cost anything to say hello or how are you. It honestly doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe in the States it's a little different, but here people are very much in their own lane.
Oh, no. It's the same here. At least in the northern part of the United States, it is. Like we're a very individualistic society in the United States. Like you might find pockets where people are like really collectivist and like communal, but like a lot of it is just very, we're conditioned to be very like individualistic. It's about me and those closest to me and screw everybody else, basically. So yeah, there are pockets, but I would say for the most part, actually, I like social psychology. That's what I want my degree in, and we talk about this about how the United States is an individualistic culture, and for the most part. But again, there's pockets. But as we wrap up the podcast today, because time flies.
Oh, it does fly.
It does fly. I people are like, what? 45 minutes has already passed. Yes, it has. What would you like to leave the Inspired Women audience with?
Ooh,
It's always the hardest question of the entire podcast.
well, it's not. I mean, yes. I think the most important thing is to move from a state of disempowerment to empowering ourselves, right? Taking back control of our lives and returning to the wholesomeness of our authentic nature. People will say, what the hell is our authentic nature anyway? It's learning to live a mindful life rather than having a mindful of things. Yeah. So becoming conscious, becoming aware of your thoughts, aware of your actions, aware in everything that you do. Because we run around like programmed. And it's, exiting that programming and starting to live your life, as I said earlier, rather than being lived and doing something with your life, because it's not all about working along the assembly. I always call it this, we're like robots working along the assembly line of the factory of life, of the earthly life. And that's not what we were designed for. Our souls were not designed to live that way. It's really about figuring out, what do you want out of life and going for that. And that is, taking back your I am power. It's so, so important. And to heal from your trauma and to take that accountability for everything that's happened in your life, and to learn to forgive others and to love others. Because by doing so, you change your thinking, you change the energy, in your energy field, so to speak, and you attract different things in your life, or different opportunities. If one door closes, another one opens.
Yes.
And so and I will say this, if you understand that everything is energy and that you are energy, then you understand that anything is possible.
Yes. And I want to add, and I hope you agree, it's not about self-blame. It is about saying, I had a part in what happened. Whether like that part was like beyond our control. You were a child, right? That was beyond your control to live with the friend, right? That's not something you got to actively choose, but we get to actively choose to heal from that.
Yes. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
Okay.
And that is a choice, whether we choose to heal or not.
Yes. I'm glad, because as a domestic violence survivor myself, I don't want people to be like, oh, you're saying that I'm to blame that my significant other beat me up. We're not saying that. What we're saying is like, we have to take accountability for like the trauma that happened and heal from it. That's our accountability, is healing.
Yes. And the more you keep pointing the finger at other people, playing that blame game, the more you deviate away from yourself, the more you keep playing Houdini with yourself. I call it the whack-a-moling the emotions.
Yeah.
Eventually it's going to go boom.
They just have room in your brain, right? They have space in your head. Like if you just let them live there, they will live there, but you just got to evict them and be like, bye, you don't have control of my life anymore.
Exactly. You need to kick those pesky demons in your mind to the curb.
Absolutely. Well, Birgitta, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Megan.
Thank you for being a part of the Inspired Women audience. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review. And don't forget to share this out with somebody who could use some inspiration today. Tag us at Inspired Women Podcast, both on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day.